Hi guys, welcome to Kenganda. My name is Janita Maya, and on today's episode, I am joined by Mr. Christopher Mulindwa, right? Now, Christopher, tell the people again who you are.
Yeah, my name is Christopher Mulindwa. I work with Prime Pork Uganda Limited, but also a technical support for new science and choice genetics in Uganda.
Okay. Yeah. Now, if you've been, in Kenganda, you must have heard the name Christopher Mulindwa. He has appeared here, I think it's now 4 times during the podcast.
I think so.
Yeah, so he has been on the channel quite a number of times, and every time he comes here, you know what we talk about? We talk about pigs and piggery. Now, the previous episode, we talked about nutrition, and on this episode, we wanted to dive in and, talk more about nutrition in detail for those who asked. Now, the first question would be, what pig feed ingredients are affordable and available in Uganda for the pig farmers out there?
Yeah, Uganda is a blessed country when it comes to nutrition in general, both for humans and livestock. We have a variety of feeds available, like soybeans. We grow soybeans here in the north and the eastern. We grow in serious quantities. They produce in serious quantities in those two regions.
Yes.
We also grow maize. Maize is a staple food here.
Yes.
So we have maize, we have soybean. So whenever you have maize and soybean, you have the two main feed sources, feed nutrient sources.
Okay.
Like much of the money spent on pig nutrition is spent on the carbohydrate source and the protein source. Mm-hmm. So once you have the maize, you have the carbohydrate source, which in most cases takes the largest percentage of composition in the final feed mixture, and then the protein, which is second in the percentage composition. So those two are the most expensive, and we have them locally. So when you talk about other nutrients like the vitamins, the minerals, probably we can think about the greens that we have, though this is something that is not so much applicable on a commercial scale. If somebody is setting up a large commercial farm, it's very difficult for him or her to go source for grass, for greens outside there and give to the pigs. Beyond the difficulty in sourcing for these greens, they can also harbor vectors and then lead to, some diseases, vectors that, transmit certain diseases. So it's not so much recommended for somebody to look for greens, but as well, vitamin and mineral nutrients are very cheap on market. So they're readily accessible. Yes.
Yeah. Now, what do you consider when buying pig feed ingredients?
There is a lot to consider, and like you see, specifically when we were starting, the first question you asked me, I saw much focused on maize and soybean.
Yes.
Yeah, but before you consider whether to use maize or soybean, there are some factors that you must put into consideration. For example, the accessibility to these feedstuffs. You might be in a region where maize is hardly accessible, but there is another feedstuff that can supply energy in quantities that maize supply or even more.
Yeah.
So instead of fixing yourself on maize, you can go look out for that feedstuff because it is accessible in your locality. Another issue is the price. It doesn't make sense if you're buying maize very expensively and yet there is another feedstuff that is cheaper.
Yeah.
Because in nutrition, if you can't manage the cost of these feedstuffs that you need to make a final feed, your profitability will suffer. So you must find a way of buying or using the most affordable feedstuff that is available in your locality. Another issue is on the nutrient composition. yes, it might be affordable, it might be accessible, but there is a huge question of which nutrients does this particular feedstuff contains. If it is a protein source feedstuff, how much protein is in it? And how do I need to work around with other feedstuffs to come up with balanced levels of protein, of amino acids in this particular feedstuff or in the complete feed? So those three issues are key and very important. The last, but also important, is the processing. For example, soy has trypsin inhibitors. We can easily call them digestive inhibitors. Like if you consumed it, even human beings, you can't consume soy in its raw form because you can't digest it. So same applies to the pigs. They cannot digest raw soy. You need to roast it. So roasting it is a process of balancing the heat that you use. So the heat shouldn't be too much, because when it is too much, the proteins in it are denatured. And once denatured, they are unusable to the pigs. The pigs can't assimilate. They can't absorb the proteins that have been that are denatured.
Yeah.
But also, if you undercook it, if you underheat it, still the digestive inhibitors will remain in the feed. So you need to balance the two. And if you don't have proper equipment, then you can't use full-fat soy. You can't use the soybean. Okay. You have to, again, go to the oil manufacturing companies to assist you. Because before oil is extracted from soy, it first undergo through heating. And it is heated at collective temperatures. So there is no worry of, denaturing proteins and as well as undercooking the soybeans.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. Now, I think I've always wondered, and I know someone out there is also wondering, why is it that pigs can't eat grass? Why not just let them loose and let them eat grass like other animals?
It's not that they can't eat grass. They can eat grass, but they can't efficiently digest it.
Oh, it's about digestion.
Yes, the pig's digestive system is more or less like our digestive system, the humans. So like you humans, it's very hard for you to eat grass. Yeah, and so applies to the pig.
Yeah.
The pig doesn't chew cud like cows. So you cannot entirely feed them on grass because they can't properly. They lack the capabilities to properly utilize it like other animals do. And also that we should also point us to the issue of using raw feedstuffs like raw sweet potato, raw cassava. Yes, they are feeds and they provide a good level of energy, but the digestibility is poor. Okay, so if you choose to use cassava or sweet potato, you have to process it. Either you dry it and smash it into smaller particles, or you cook it. Because human beings, Ugandans who enjoy eating raw cassava, I don't know whether you've seen such people.
I've seen them. I think I've also eaten.
Yeah, so you can eat.
It's quite tasty.
Yeah, but you can't get satisfied out of eating it. Yeah. So the reason is because its digestibility is poor. It is not easily digestible. So even though you ate cassava, raw cassava, you still need cooked food. So you can't entirely let pigs depend on raw foods, on raw cassava, raw sweet potato. Yeah, in the same line with the grass.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Now, Mr. Christopher, tell us how useful are pig concentrates and premix to a pig farmer out there, and what are they? Can you first define it for us, for those who don't know what a premix or a concentrate is?
Yeah, like you see with human beings, our diets. I so much refer to human beings because, Like I said, the pig's digestive system is more or less like ours.
True.
So, like human beings, you always hear from doctors that you have to feed on a balanced diet.
Yeah.
You need a balanced diet to be healthy. So the same applies to the pigs. Concentrates and premixes are nothing more but feedstuffs that are concentrated in particular nutrients. A concentrate can be a concentrate of proteins. Protein concentrates are what we mostly use here in Uganda, because the big challenge we have is with protein sources. Like I said, soy is very hard to process.
Yeah.
So there are some farmers that completely have no means of processing soybeans, and also a little limited in access to soy cake from oil manufacturing companies.
Yeah.
So what happens is that nutritional companies come up with the products that you can use alongside the readily available feedstuffs. For example, in concentrates, there is what we call the high protein concentrates and the low protein concentrates. The low protein concentrates are more or less like premixes. Premixes are simply the vitamin mineral mix. They are a mixture of vitamins and minerals. But these days, these premixes are added with amino acids. Amino acids are building blocks for proteins. So a protein is built up by amino acids, like carbohydrates are built up by glucose. Okay? In simple science. Amino acids builds up proteins. So these some premixes, in fact, the premixes on market today are added with amino acids to just support the mixing and to boost growth in pigs, and mainly lysine. So the farmer who can't access quality soy cake can use the high protein concentrates.
Right.
Mix these concentrates with a carbohydrate source and come up with a complete feed for their pigs. For example, if you can access maize or maize and maize bran, you only need a high protein concentrate to mix with the maize and maize bran to come up with a complete diet for your pigs.
Right.
So it is the process of feed formulation and feed mixing. First of all, you're working with very few feedstuffs, only maize and the concentrate. All maize, the concentrate, and maize bran. 3 feedstuffs involved. So it is very easy for you to achieve a uniform mixture. And this is very ideal to small farms. Small farms have these issues.
Yeah.
And also big farms that lack machinery. Because even though you bought high quality feedstuffs but fail to uniformly mix it to achieve uniform nutrient distribution, still you can't achieve uniform growth when your animals are growing. Some will grow faster, others will grow slowly, because the nutrient distribution is not uniform. So people, smallholder farmers, medium-holder farmers, and large-holder farmers who lack capacity to process feedstuffs, to mix their feeds, can opt for high-protein concentrates.
Wow.
Okay? And people with ability to use the locally available feedstuffs, most especially soy, all people with ability to source for the oiled soy cake. I think, maybe I will explain the difference between the oiled soy cake and full-fat soy cake later after bringing this point home. Yeah. People who can't afford processing or sourcing for the oiled soy cake can use the high protein concentrate, but those who can afford can use the low protein concentrate.
Right.
The low protein concentrate needs mixture with other protein feedstuffs. For example, you need soy in the diet. You might need sunflower in the diet. You might need cotton seed cake in the diet. So you have a variety of feedstuffs to work with. Okay, so you need a proper mixture, a proper mixing machine to mix these feedstuffs in order for you to come up with a uniformly mixed feed. Yeah. So in a nutshell, the high protein concentrate is for farmers with no ability to process soy or to access quality soy from the market. And the low protein concentrate is for farmers with ability to process soy and other protein feedstuffs that are readily available on market. So let's give the difference between the soybeans, which we normally call the full fat soybeans, and the de-oiled soybeans, or let's call it the de-oiled soy cake, the soy cake. These two are different. The full fat soybeans are these soybeans harvested from the garden, dried, processed, and fed as they are to the pigs. The de-oiled soy cake comes from oil manufacturing companies. It is soy cake whose fat has been removed, has been used to make oil for human consumption. So that is the difference. The full fat soy cake is high in fat. The de-oiled soy cake is low in fat. So these issues are very important when you go into feed formulation, because once you don't have that knowledge, you can't come up with a correct formula for your pigs, and they will not receive a balanced diet, and performance will as well become very difficult. Yes.
Oh, now listening to you, I understand why you're an expert in your field, because I don't think anyone can remember all that, but that's why we bring him here, so that he can give you all the information. Now, what are the different types of feeds that a farmer can make or buy?
Of course, pigs are divided into the reproductive and the commercial pigs.
Yes.
Reproductive pigs are the production engine of the farm. And today I think we should independently define these particular pigs so that somebody following us can understand.
Yeah.
We have the sows. A sow is a reproductively active female pig. So any pig that has ever given birth before is called a sow. We have a gilt.
A gilt?
A gilt is a younger female pig.
But wouldn't that be a sow?
It is not yet a sow.
Because it hasn't given birth yet.
If you allow me, I would call it, compare it to a woman and a girl. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. That should not offend people.
It's okay.
But just to drive
for
this.
Easy understanding.
Exactly.
Easy understanding.
So the gilt is the young female pig, a pig that has not given birth before. So it's what we call a gilt. And we have a dry sow.
Okay.
A dry sow is a sow that has weaned off its young ones. It has been, let's call it breastfeeding, to make it easier for people to understand.
Yeah.
But it has been lactating, breastfeeding, and now it has weaned off its young ones. So that is called a dry sow. It is neither pregnant nor breastfeeding, just to make it easier for people to understand.
Okay.
And a gestating sow is a sow that is pregnant. A sow that is pregnant, or a gilt that is pregnant. In fact, when a gilt is served and conceives, it is no longer gilt. It becomes a sow.
Oh.
So the gestating sows are sows that are pregnant. So on the other side, in the reproductive herd, we also have the boar. A boar is the male pig.
Big man.
The big man of the farm. So they are what we call barrows. So a barrow is a castrated male pig.
Oh, it can't.
It can't amount. It's a barrow. It has been castrated.
Barren.
Not barren.
Can you reverse the castration?
Of course you can't. Once you remove what produces the semen.
Oh, you don't. I thought you nip the balls. I'm sorry. You don't do that.
Not really. In pigs, we completely remove. We don't
You completely remove its parts.
tests. Yes, they are called tests. We remove. We completely remove them, so it cannot mount because.
Does it get the feeling to mount?
Of course, the feelings a little dies because once the semen is not produced, then the vigor to mount also depreciates.
So no one should think pigs are there mounting for pleasure. They have a purpose behind their mounting.
Exactly. Every male animal, except
I was
for females.
Human being.
Except for females.
The sows.
The sows will only allow a boa to mount them when they are ready. So it is not for pressure. But a boa can mount whenever, wherever. So but a sow will only accept when it is its conceptive time.
Right.
So it can't just accept a boa to come and just mount it.
It has its own timetable.
Exactly,
Okay,
it has
moving
its own timetable.
Right.
So that's what makes up the reproductive herd. And I think when I talk about the reproductive herd, somebody watching is now getting what I'm talking about. That's the reproductive herd. So each of those categories have different feeds that they should consume. And there is a very huge mistake made by many pig farmers, mainly the small holder and the medium holder, making these pigs depend on one single formula. It's not good. So you need to have the lactating sow meal, which is a feed for the lactating sows, for the breastfeeding sows, to make it easier for you to understand. You need the gestating sow meal. Now, the difference is that the lactating sow is both feeding to generate milk, but also to keep itself in shape. Yes, it is feeding to support its young ones, but as well as supporting its own body needs.
To keep alive.
Exactly. So you have to feed it right. The nutrient composition of a lactating sow, the nutrient composition, the feed nutrient composition of for a lactating sow is actually different from that of a dry sow or a gestating sow. So you need the gestating sow meal. We have a challenge in pigs that once inseminated in its earlier days of gestation, if you excessively feed energy, it will interfere with the hormones that are responsible for the implantation of these fertilized eggs. And so some eggs can be reabsorbed into the body. So you have to really control the nutrient balance in earlier stages of gestation and keep on increasing. But the person who is making a formula for your gestating sow must have this in mind. So when they are balancing these nutrients, that should be a core when you're balancing nutrients for a gestating sow. So we have a diet for dry sows and gilt rearing. There is what we call the gilt rearing diets. So these are for rearing gilts. I think we now understand gilts, what gilts are. So gilts, we are feeding to achieve the insemination weight. We inseminate gilts at a weight of between 130 kilograms to 150 kilograms. So that is something that you can't just achieve. You need a special diet. From 20 weeks of age, you should transfer the gilt from the finisher diet to gilt rearer diet and feed it until it achieves the 130, 150 kilograms, all as advised by your genetic supplier. So those are the different feeds. We also have the boa meal, okay? The boa meal, that's a meal for the boa. You know, for the boa, you only feed for maintenance. Right. You want to keep it in shape and alive, and you don't want it to grow too fat. Because once it's too fat, if you're using it for natural insemination, you'll have issues. It will not be able to. Even mounting becomes.
That's why I said kill the female.
Exactly. It becomes too heavy, And also mounting becomes something that is not of interest to it as it grows too big. So in the reproductive herd, we don't want to feed it too much, but we don't want to feed it too low, except during lactation and during gut rearing, because we are feeding to achieve particular goals. Gut rearing, we want to achieve the insemination weight. Lactation or breastfeeding, we want to achieve high milk rate down, and the body maintenance of this sow. We want it to come back on heat as earlier as possible. So that is the first side.
Okay.
The second one is the commercial herd.
Yeah.
The commercial herd is composed of pigs that are being reared for slaughter.
Right.
So they are produced by the reproductive herd, and here they are being prepared for the knife. So you're feeding to achieve certain goals. The number one goal is to achieve quick growth. And number two is to achieve high quality meat.
Yeah.
A high killing out percentage. Like when you go to the market, you want to get more pork from these pigs. And you're feeding to be able to achieve your market weight at your target period of time. Okay? So in the commercial herd, when these piglets are born, they are fed on what we call the creep feed. So because we are looking so much at profitability, you're giving creep feed to support the mother's milk. So they take this liquid diet from their mother, but also you support it with a solid diet. So beyond supporting, you also want these piglets' digestive system to get used to solid foods, because creep feeding enables early weaning. So once you creep feed, the digestive system of these piglets will grow faster. And so you can easily transfer them to a solid diet. So we call it creep feed, and this must be industry made, because there are few farmers, in fact, no farmer in Uganda with the capacity of making a quality creep feed on their farms. So you give that feed from 6 days of age. So once the piglets are born, you introduce the feed. You have to keep it away from the sow because it is an expensive feed. So once the sow eats it, in fact, you're losing money. Right. So you have to keep it away. You introduce it. The first day, they will not be that interested. The second day, the interest will come. They will start playing with the feed. Right. So 3-4 days, they will completely start, biting the feed. And later, they will be on it. They will be eating the feed. So it's a very important feed when you're preparing these pigs that are destined for slaughter.
Yeah.
So once you wean them off, you start them on what we call the starter meal. Wow. So the starter meal takes them through the first month of weaning. You feed them on the starter meal, and after that, you transfer them to the grower meal. All right. So you feed the grower meal until 4 months. Then you transfer them to what we call the finisher meal. Okay. So you can see there are different types of feeds that you're using for different categories of pigs at different stages. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay, that's all nice. Now, how much would each feed cost per kilogram? And how can one make their own feed?
Okay, we can look at average costs.
The average cost estimate.
Yeah, but a pig farmer or somebody who is intending to do pig farming, watching this, must understand that we don't have stable prices for feedstuffs in Uganda. Yeah. Most especially the key feedstuffs, the carbohydrate sources and the protein sources. The prices fluctuate a lot. So like today, today, we have a challenge of limited access to even soy cake. Yeah. So there is that challenge. And for maize, it is cheaper during the harvest season. Yeah. And after the harvest season, the prices goes up. Yeah. So the estimates I'm going to give are not actually, are not consistent with those variations. And I'm depending on someone who is stocking his own feedstuffs when prices are lower. So if you stock your feedstuffs when prices are lower and you're using the low protein concentrates, your prices of these feeds, most especially on the reproductive herd, varies from 800 to 1,200 Uganda shillings. So the variation is in between there. The most expensive, of course, is the lactation meal because it is highly nutritious. These other feeds are a little cheaper because their nutrients are not that so much because they are fed for maintenance. And on the commercial side, the variation, for example, creep feed averages at 5,000 shillings, Uganda shillings per kilogram. But it is consumed in smaller quantities. You need like 1 kilogram to go through lactation and to transfer these piglets to a solid diet, to start a meal. So it is cheap, it is expensive, but consumed in very small quantities. Right. So the price is not so much felt. The starter meal is also a little expensive. If you're buying it from outside, it can cost to as much as 2,000 Uganda shillings. Okay. But if you made it on farm, it will cost between 1,000 to 1,500 Uganda shillings. So the rest of the diets, grower to finisher, will average 800 to 1,000 Uganda shillings. If you stocked your feed ingredients when prices are lower. Yep.
Right. Oh, you didn't tell us how one can make their own feed.
Now, making your own feeds on farm, you need to have the feedstuffs in the first place. Yeah. And this must be of very good quality. Okay. But before you use those feedstuffs to mix your pig feeds, you must make sure that you have the right formulation. It's very wrong for a farmer to use generic formulas. You pick a formula that is being used in the UK, feel like you want your pigs to feed on a diet, then you start using it. It's very wrong. You must get your own formula, a formula that meets your own farm requirements, and a formula that is responsive to the finances. Because maybe the cost of a kilogram of pork in the UK is not the cost of the kilogram of pork in Uganda. So you must have a formula that is sensitive to the economics of pig farming and mainly to the profitability of your business. So you must put that into consideration. So what you do, you get these different feedstuffs that you can easily access, whose prices are favorable to you. Take them to a nutritionist for nutrient analysis. Get to understand what each of these feedstuffs contribute in terms of nutrients. Then ask the nutritionist to help you put together these feedstuffs to come up with the right formula for you to use. You need a formula for your farm. You need a formula that is answerable to the economics and the performance of your farm.
Now, what's the quantity of feeds a pig farmer would need from insemination to weaning?
From insemination to weaning, yes. You use quite a lot of feeds, but of course, this is the cost you pay to produce the piglets, and it averages 500 kilograms. So you use about 500 kilograms from insemination to weaning of these piglets. Because once the pig is inseminated, of course, you cut the diet. You give about 2.5 kilograms per day for the first month. Then in mid-gestation, you increase it to 3 kilograms, and then increase it to about 3.5 kilograms in late gestation. Then when they fallow, following is giving birth in simple terms. When they fallow, you have to feed them at will. They should eat as much as they can because they are eating to generate milk and they are eating to cater for their own bodies. So they should eat as much as they can. Okay. We call it ad libitum. All right. So you feed it, you let them feed at will. Okay. So, but on average, these animals will eat about 6 kilograms per day. So you let them eat about 6 kilograms for the month that they go through lactation. So on average, you'll come up to about 500 kilograms of feeds. But that's when wastage is limited.
Right.
It's common in Uganda for people to waste feeds. They waste feeds in the store, waste feeds on their way to the pig pen, and also the feed troughs that they use for these pigs to feed also facilitate wastage. Okay? And sometimes wastage can come in how you provide the feeds. For example, if you are not using automated or semi-automated feed troughs, don't pour the whole 6 kilograms in the trough. Right. You should apportion it so that this pig doesn't waste the feed.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, now still, from weaning to the slaughterhouse, what's the quantity of feeds they would need there?
Now, from weaning to slaughter, if you're not wasting anything, which is practically impossible, you would use about 260 kilograms to grey pig from weaning to slaughter. But this, like I said, is not practical in Uganda due to the feed troughs that we use to feed our pigs and our carelessness in general. A typical Ugandan who is managing at an average, who is doing average management, can produce a pig for slaughter at about 300 kilograms. So you waste the 40 kilograms. So if you can work backward and solve that wastage, because if you got each kilogram at 1,000, it means that you waste 40,000 per pig. So if you worked backwards and solve the question of wastage, you greatly reduce the amount of feeds that you use from weaning to slaughter.
Right. Yeah. Oh, okay. Now, how would you determine that your pigs are responding positively to the feeds being given to them?
Okay. Again, we will need to go a little bit technical, but simple technical. And I guess I'll go slow so that viewers can understand.
Right.
So these are normal terms. In fact, if you're going into commercial pig farming, you must get used to them. Terms like the average daily gain. The average daily gain is simply the amount of weight your pig gains every day.
Right.
You can choose another name if you don't want to call it average daily gain.
Right.
But it is just the amount of weight, live body weight, that your pig puts on a daily basis. We shorten it to ADG. So you go to a commercial pig farm and somebody will just mention ADG. So ADG is average daily gain, which is the amount of weight your pig puts on a daily basis. Another term that is also very important is the feed conversion ratio. Right. The feed conversion ratio is the amount of feed, the percentage of feed, the ratio of feed to. I'm looking for an easier way. The ratio of feeds to weight gained. Like how much feeds do you need for your pig to gain 1 kilogram of live body weight? Right. So these two are very, very important, and you have to follow them. So the way you determine whether your pigs are responding to nutrition is by following those two factors, the average daily gain and the feed conversion ratio. So with the average daily gain, you might choose to weigh your pigs. Maybe you have 1,000 pigs and you can't weigh them at once. You can take the averages. Okay? You can take the averages. This can be on a daily basis, which is not practical. You can't do it every day. Maybe if you're dealing with the 2, 3, 1 pig. But if you're dealing with many pigs, you can't do it on a daily basis. You can do it weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. Okay? You determine. Then you get the weight. For example, if you got the weight that your pigs gained from day 1 to day 7, which is
Yeah.
a week, you divide the weight you got into 7. So you get the weight that these pigs gained, the average weight that they gained every day.
Yeah.
So that gives you a picture of how these pigs are growing. But then you have to ask yourself a question. What does it cost me to get to this performance? What does it cost me to gain this weight that I'm gaining? So we go back to the feed conversion ratio.
Yeah.
So you determine in a simplistic way by considering the amount of feeds that you give to these pigs on a daily basis. So if you're giving in groups, maybe you give 20 kilograms, you divide the 20 kilograms by the number of pigs in that group to come up with the average quantity that each pig consumes. It might not be the reality, but you get the average quantity. So you compare the average quantity with the weight that you're getting. So you will know that whenever I feed 1 kilogram of feeds, I get 0.5 live body weight gain. So generally, that's how we determine the performance of pigs on farm and the response of pigs to nutrition.
Yeah.
Because that also determines the profitability.
Yeah.
It's a track for your profitability.
Yes.
Yes, I'm spending money, but will this money be paid back
Yeah.
by these pigs?
Okay.
Understanding earlier that this money will not be paid back is better
Yeah.
than taking time to understand. Because if you get to understand at a later stage, it means that you've already lost a lot of money. So you have to really follow these two to make sure that you are in line with your projected profitability, with your projected debt to market.
Right.
Exactly,
Okay.
yes. When you overfeed
Right.
during early stages of gestation, the excess energy can interfere with the implantation of the fertilized eggs. And so that can lead to either a smaller litter size or repeats, a sow coming back on heat. So you have to cut feed and you give about 2 to 2.5 kilograms per day. Okay? Then during mid-gestation, you increase it after confirming that my pig is actually pregnant. You increase it to 3 kilograms and you increase it again to 3.5 kilograms during late gestation. Do not overfeed. There is this tendency that it's common in humans that a pregnant woman eats for 2.
Yeah.
It's a wrong perception.
For pigs,
In
not
pigs,
for people.
I don't know in humans. I'm not a medic.
expert there.
medic.
It's okay.
So in pigs, once you excessively feed, and these animals get too fatty, still they get issues during farrowing. So it is something that you don't want. You have to keep them in their right body condition score, but as well as providing for the nutrients required by the young ones to grow properly.
Right.
So that's why you don't have to overfeed, even though they are gestating.
Okay.
And for the lactating sows, we already said that you give it's a minimum of 6 kilograms.
Right.
We usually depend on the number of piglets produced. A pig that has a litter size of 20 kilograms can't only consume 6 kilograms. It will consume a little more than that. And when you remove it from when you take away the young ones, the piglets, you now have to assess the condition of this sow.
Yeah.
Is it malnourished? Like, has it depreciated in its body condition score? If its body condition score has depreciated, then you need to beef up the feeding to enable it to gain quickly, because you don't want it to delay coming back on heat. But if its body condition score is still in shape,
Yeah.
please go with the 3 kilograms per day.
Wow.
Then on the commercial herd, of course, like we said, for creep feed, you will not measure, but ensure that each piglet consume an average of 500 grams before weaning.
Okay.
And you use the rest of the 500 grams from weaning to transfer to the starter diet. And don't do sudden change. There are guys who take them off their mothers and then introduce them to very Aryan feeds. And, such would induce diarrhea because such feeds can upset the gut.
Yeah.
And also they can refuse to eat it.
Yeah.
Of course, they refuse during the earlier days after weaning. Piglets are more interested in water than the feed. But, hunger is hunger. They will keep on learning how to eat. But let them keep eating the creep that they have been eating while with their mother as you change gradually to the starter diet. And on the starter side, you're going to feed about 1 kilogram.
Yeah.
But feeding at that level is so much by weight. So you consider the weight of the animal and then give the ideal feed. But a starter, you give about 1 kilogram. Grower, you give about 2 kilograms. And finisher, you give about 3 kilograms. So those are the estimates.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Mr. Christopher, thank you so much. I hope someone learned something. And I hope they're starting out the pig farm and, doing their best to make sure that pigs are well fed, because this has been an in-depth into the nutrition of pigs. Now you can find Mr. Christopher Mulindwa on all his social medias. I believe you use the same name.
Yeah.
Just Google. If you Google Christopher Mulindwa, there's a whole, the results. You find him there, so you can find him there. And then you can find Kenganda on all social media pages. That is Kenganda Nation Instagram, Kenganda Nation Facebook, Kenganda Nation Twitter. I'm your host, Joanita. We'll see you next time.